Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Built by Reese YouTube video. Today I am going to be showing you how I completely changed the cable management of my desk using only a 3D printer. So I recently moved out of my college house, and while doing this I noticed that my desk setup could definitely use a little bit of love, especially in the cable management part of it. This is what it looked like in my old setup. It's not awful. I definitely had some cable management, but there was a lot of cables that were dangling, and it definitely didn't look great when you stepped away and could actually see underneath the desk. So when I was looking online at some different options, it seemed like a lot of the options were pretty expensive and also not very modular. So it was kind of hard to know exactly what you needed to get. So after looking around YouTube for a little bit, I saw a couple videos of people that were 3D printing cable management that would basically stick or screw to the underside of their desk, and then you could use modular options to print out whatever you needed and be able to use that as your cable management. So that is what I ended up choosing. Now, what I want to note is that most of this is already done. I've noticed that in my last few videos is that I kind of do things a lot off camera and then come on here and do more of like a story time or tell you how it went. I definitely want to shift from that into more record while I'm doing things. In this specific instance, it was a little hard because I was moving a bunch of stuff and I wanted to get my desk set up to do remote work. And so I kind of just did it one night to get my desk set up, and now I'm going to show you guys how it went. So when looking for an ecosystem to use, the one that I ended up choosing was this open grid octagon design paired with the Underware 2.0 kind of modular system. So for the open grid, it is just these 9x9 squares of octagons, and I ended up screwing those to the bottom of the desk so they sit flat right up under my desk. And then the Underware 2.0 is this cable management system where in Maker World you can actually customize it. So you open up different things such as your cable management, the T-brackets, or anything else, and you can basically edit the size and shape to whatever fits your application. Okay, so now I wanted to come on here and show you some of the things that I was talking about. So this is the multi-board that I ended up using. It's the one that I found and liked. So basically, I just downloaded this and printed it out and then put a screw into each one of these holes, and they kind of just mesh together. And this is the Underware cable management I was talking about. So basically you have all of these different types of pieces and you can customize them to however you like. So I'll show you guys kind of how I did that here. So you hit customize and you can pick the part you want to customize. It doesn't really matter what one you pick right now because once you're in the customizer, you can pick whatever you want. So the one that I ended up using a lot of was these hooks and grooves. So this basically allows me to wrap the cable around the hooks and grooves so that nothing is hanging down. So as you can see here, this is kind of the default, and I can go over here and edit the parameters kind of however I want. So one thing that I did was I used only 2 grooves for most of mine, so I can change it to 2, hit generate, and in a second here you can see that now I have my new part. So there are a ton of different options. You can make it any size, any width, however you want to do that. So another important item I used is this Underware item holder. So I basically use this to hang up my power strip. So I measured the dimensions of my power strip and edited over here so that it would perfectly fit and hold up that power strip. Now I will say a lot of these are pretty daunting at first and kind of confusing for what they actually do. So what I found was the best is kind of just play around with these, change something a lot and hit generate to see what that actually changes, and then you can kind of dial it in once you understand it a little bit better. So what you use to hang this up is these connector pieces. So all of the other pieces have these little screw holes in them. You basically screw that into the holes and then those stick up right onto the open grid connector pieces. So this is what allows you to mount things upside down so that it runs right along the bottom of your desk. Another thing I want to point out to hopefully save you a little bit confusion, because this confused me a lot. As you can see, this item holder as well as the cable T-brackets use these different connectors. They don't use the screws. And when looking on here, there are no connector pieces that actually use that. Well, come to find out, it actually uses this different multi-connector piece, which kind of allows you to slide it in and slot it so that you can have a little adjustment there. So I'll make sure to also link this connector piece as well so that you don't get confused like I did. So now for a little bit more tips and tricks of how I set this up. Basically, I kind of just printed out a bunch of different pieces that I thought I was going to use. I didn't really measure anything to start out with just because I wasn't sure how I was going to actually put everything together. So I printed out some cable channels, some L brackets, and a bunch of the kind of cable T brackets to start out with. So the first thing I hung up was my power strip because that's where everything was going to be coming from. So I hung that up, and then after that, I kind of ran the cables from that to where they needed to go. And based on that, I took the connector pieces that I had already printed and used them where I saw fit. Now, this setup is by no means perfect. I definitely could have used a few more cable channels if I wanted to and made it look a lot more clean or easier to go back in and change stuff. But this is kind of what worked for me. I didn't need this to be the perfect or best looking setup. I just wanted something that looked nice and still worked. So in the end, I definitely recommend this setup if you have a bunch of cables under your desk and want it to look nice and don't want to spend a bunch of money on different cable management stuff online. I don't know exactly how much filament this used, but I know it wasn't anything crazy. I would say this whole setup is probably under 500 grams of filament, which is only like 10 bucks. And then I also had to buy a thing of screws off of Amazon to screw them to the bottom of my desk, which also cost about 5 bucks. So all in, I would say this is maybe $10 to $15 worth of materials. And the other great part about this is it's fully customizable and modular. So if you have a really specific thing you want to do with your cable management, or you get something new or want to take something out, it is pretty easy to either just remove it or print out a new thing without having to go under there and unscrew anything or take tape off. You can just pop it right in and out, which is super easy and super convenient. So I hope this video helped you guys if you were thinking about doing your own 3D printed cable management or was just looking for some way to do cable management in an inexpensive way. Let me know if you guys have any questions about the setup or things I didn't cover in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.